Hey guys, Andrew coming at you, and I thought it would be fun in this one to kind of go into episode 3 of The Leftovers and give you my thoughts. First of all, I have to say what I really love about this show is just how engaged you get. I have never watched an hour of television where I was so engaged with the characters. It was unbelievable. It was awesome. It was a work of art. Even if we're not going to get all the answers, it's just some of the best television I've ever seen. And anyone else I've ever talked to watch the show feels the same. I'll go into it in a little bit about things that I found that were interesting. I'll look a little bit on the community, what people are saying online on the Reddit, and kind of just go into things that I found that were interesting. So you have a place you can go, and that's where we'll go from here. So very interesting start. We get my personal Jesus as the opening for this song, and it makes a lot of sense that we get to follow Kevin's dad around basically to see that we learned that during the original rapture or on October 14th he started to hear voices, and at a certain point he started to listen to the voices. I thought that was very interesting, very awesome to check out and see, so it makes a lot of sense, and we'll go through it from there. It was interesting. Every scene he had where he was gathering more information. When we saw him with the Aborigines people in Australia, and that he was going through to try to collect every song to kind of stop the flood that was supposed to occur that we've learned about later on in this episode. Again, it's just very interesting how engaged I was to see what was going on, to hear his point of view. I enjoyed it so much, understanding all of this. So then we go through there, and what we start to see is he's going for the last song. And we're getting these little bits of detail, and we're also seeing him listen to Kevin as a child to kind of go into what's happening, see how the emotion he has and everything else. And he goes to visit this last Aboriginist guy. Before he goes, we see that he's wanted and he's been going and affecting these communities when he goes to ask for help, and he gets the package. So we learned that he also gets a hold of the Book of Kevin. So we know that he's received that, which makes sense. I think they did a really good job of kind of just giving us a kind of a complete story. I saw this one and I thought, we're going to get some answers. Maybe not exactly what happens, but they are showing that things are connecting. And that's fantastic that they've taken the time to do that. I'm very, very happy about that. So when he finally goes to meet this Aboriginist guy, he goes through this story. That had to be the greatest story I've ever heard. I've never been so engaged to just hear about his journey in Australia, going to Sydney, listening to the voices, and then going to this community where everybody disappeared. And he talked about certain things he took along the way. What I started to wonder is when Kevin's dad was having these experiences, these trips, or these near-death experiences, was he also going to Kevin's world? Because remember second season where he was talking to Kevin, was that where he was when he didn't remember everything for 2 weeks? Was he in this other world in season 2? That is something that I was thinking about. I'm not sure if that's true or not, but that's something that I again, thought about. But that scene where he's on the roof and the guy's talking about the water, and he's like, yeah, I'll go from there. And then he falls off the roof and ends up killing the guy. And then I just love him in the car trying to get the information from this guy. I love the comedy of the show and how it goes into everything. It keeps you second guessing, and it's so engaging. It's like, I feel like you could have watched this episode and known nothing about the season, almost like a Black Mirror type of episode, and then be able to go through it just unbelievably engaged. You really didn't need a whole lot of backstory for this episode. We see the National Geographic again, and what I understand is now that there was a bits of Itsy Bitsy Spider. There was a reference to it that the spider that lives underwater was on page 694. So that's interesting. That's from the original National Geographic. We also find that he feels that he has to sing these combined songs of everybody together to stop the flood. So we already got the Noah's Ark thing happening, which is, very interesting as well. So we go from there and we learn. And then he gets bit by the snake. Again, he passes out. This lady finds him. Again, I wonder, we don't always know exactly where the time frames are between Kevin and when the Book of Kevin started. And I wonder, when he gets bit by the snake, is he again communicating with Kevin in the outside world? We don't get the exact dates of when everything is happening, but it's interesting that they were in Australia. I like that they go through the episode and then we learn so much about this character. That's the lady that ends up being the one that kills the Australian Kevin. That scene where she goes through and she talks about everything she went through it was unbelievably interesting, and it just made me. It was really powerful. You really felt the emotion of feeling so crazy that you did something crazy and ended up killing this guy, and you could see the emotion she felt. Also, seeing them make the arc in this third episode was insanely awesome, and I just love that they're referring to the end of the world. There's going to be a Noah's Ark. That there's going to be a flood that might take over the world. I love those references, but that he needs the Aboriginous people song to stop the flood. That's awesome. And I love that we find more about this character, this lady. The emotion behind it, realizing what happened to her children was unbelievable because she thought they had gone with the rapture. And then it's amazing that he found this place. They have all these connections, but the story she told was awesome, and it made you just really feel like, wow, like, how would you feel if something like this would happen? And then the ending I love is just, you're not crazy. You just got the wrong Kevin. Beautiful episode, well done. Probably my favorite episode so far of the last 3 seasons, as far as just an amazing show. It makes me think of that time. I think the most amazing show in the first season would have been the one that focuses on the preacher, and this is where I go, and this is awesome. So I'm just going to go in and take a look at a few things here. So that I saw that were interesting, that we're just going to look online, that's on Reddit, that I can add. So of course I go on here. I'm not going to post anything on Reddit to try to get views necessarily, but I thought, hey, I could look at some things that people are saying and just put it on here in a condensed form if you just want to get through things really quickly, as I usually upload this the next day. First of all, Scott Glenn, or Kevin Sr., it was amazing episode. Did a really good job of going through everything, and just the acting was amazing. That was interesting. And then I'm seeing that some people are saying that there was possibly an Oceanic Airlines in the Leftovers Season 3, like a little reference, so that's a little interesting point there if you look in the episode one more time. One of the greatest quotes I saw on here that was kind of going through everything was that one person had said on Reddit that they were watching the episode for 15 minutes in Spanish and thought that just was the episode. That shows you how crazy the show is. Someone screencrapped as much as the book as they could to go through everything. And I'll try to read what is actually in the scripture that someone has screencast. And drove to a cheeseburger 22. They ate lately while Kevin said to Matthews 9, fear the great departure was caused by my own. This is just, it's, okay, I have to stop it. It's screen capture, but it just feels like there's not a lot here that's really getting into, but it is interesting to see what was written. It might be a little bit of gibberish, but I'm sure it has some meaning. But I'm trying to read through, and I think it's just going to be too much. Oh, yeah, I was thinking the same thing. So they're saying online, conference with me, we now understand why he was in the International Hotel in the Assassin episode. It must have happened around the same time. The scene with him on the cross was unbelievably awesome. Just an overall fantastic episode. It's very interesting. I'll kind of stay out of. I don't even know how you predict for this show. I just think that it was unbelievably amazing. I loved everything about it. I'm not even going to make any predictions at this point, other than we now know how Kevin's dad was able to talk to him. We know there's probably going to be a flood, but something crazy is happening on October 14th, and we're seeing how it's affecting all the other people. This has got to be the best show on television, no doubt. I hope you enjoy this. If you do enjoy this, please give me some comments below about things that you're finding and discovering as well. I hope you enjoy this content. I was able to get a microphone this time, so I hope that's improved the quality of this video. I'm not going to worry about lighting right now because I'm trying to not rush to get this out, but kind of go through things as best as I can and move through with the episodes. Feel free to subscribe. This isn't normally what I do on a channel. I put music on here, and every once in a while if I watch a video, I'll talk about it. I usually focus on self-help, but I really thought it was important that there was somebody out there talking about these types of videos. If you like this video, give me a like, and I'll see you in the next one. Take care.